and welcome to We Live in a Society. Due to the current apocalypse, this will be the first remote We Live in a Society interview that I will be doing due to the COVID-19 quarantines here in France and in other parts of the world. My first guest will be Monica from Florida in the United States.
Hi, I'm Monica, and I'm primarily from Florida in the United States.
What was your childhood like?
So at my dad's in the summer, I was pretty spoiled. He lives in Miami, so it's like tropical weather, and he'd set out a hammock for me, and I'd read just like all summer. I'd read, and he'd bring me smoothies. And he didn't have a swimming pool at his house, but his parents did. So my grandparents at their apartment complex. So and my aunt and uncle and cousins had one. So at my dad's house, I'd play in the sprinklers and read and watch a lot of movies. And then at my grandparents' house, I would swim in their pool and eat all the candy I wasn't allowed to usually. And so my summers as a kid were really great.
Did you ever go to a summer camp when you were a kid? I know they're a big cultural thing in the US.
Yeah, so that's actually part of the reason why I did summer camp as an adult, like 18. I look back now and I was like, they put me in charge of children? I was a child. No, I was a good counselor. But anyway, so I went as a counselor because I had never gotten the sleepaway camp experience. I really wanted it, but we couldn't afford it. But I had done a couple day camps, so like you go for a week and it's, the length that you'd go to like school or something, and we'd dance or do arts and crafts or like swim classes or something. So I did do a little day camp and some Girl Scout camping, like weekend trips. But yeah, nothing like the sleepaway camp experience until I became a counselor. And I went back a second year. It was not as good as the first year.
You did too?
Not as good.
Do you have any funny stories relating to the working or anything that you can say on camera? Not what we got up to behind the scenes.
Yeah, so summer camp. Whew. It was interesting. I feel like even though it was the same camp, I had a very different experience my first year and my second for some reason. I think I had most of the same campers, and so that was nice. I really loved the kids. I started with them. I think they were 6 or 7 when we started with them, and so the next summer they were like 8 or 9, and just like little sweethearts. But my first year, I definitely had a better time making friends. I made a lot closer friends, and the second year I didn't connect with people as much, and I don't know if that was just kind of weird dynamics, or maybe I came with a boyfriend that year, so maybe I was a little more preoccupied with that, and I wasn't putting myself out there as much. I'm not really sure. The camp dynamics were really strange, and I learned a lot about that in my second year, actually, because I came with a boyfriend. Like on the women's side, I had trouble falling asleep, and so when the stupid bugle would go off, I would kind of toss and turn in my bed. And I can't remember, it might have been my first year, but this one co-counselor that was in my bunk that did not care for me, she looked me dead in the eye and she was like, "What are you doing?" Because I didn't jump out of bed. And I mentioned coming with a boyfriend at the time because meanwhile, on the boys' side, he was on the bottom bunk. He would put a blanket up to cover himself and he would sleep through breakfast, and his bunkmates would bring him back breakfast. So I was like, this isn't right. So it just seemed like there was a lot of, unfortunately, some cattiness going on of who's working harder and there was this kind of weird dynamic. I was what was called a specialty counselor, so I was kind of like the man of the house, if we want to put this in gender roles, where I would go and I would do my theater job and then come back at night, whereas the general counselors were with the kids all day. And so it was kind of that classic, I get home and they want me to watch the kids. And I'm like, well, I've been watching kids all day too. And it was this weird infighting that really just, I wish wouldn't have happened. But yeah, so it was this kind of you're working harder. No, you're working harder. But that aside, I mean, it's beautiful. Like I had such fun there, such great experiences, but it was also a lot harder than I thought too.
Yeah.
Like craziest memories, I think it was my second year. One of the girls stepped on an earring, and now as an adult, I'm like, I should have just like pulled it out, disinfected it, and put a Band-Aid on it. But at the time, I was like, I don't know, am I supposed to pull it out? Because I was dumb and I was 19. So I piggybacked her all the way to the infirmary with the freaking earring in her foot. Like, ooh, like I'm the hero of the day. Like, what? What was I doing? I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to remove it. I was going to take her to the infirmary. I was like so scared of doing something wrong. Gotten to travel much at that point, aside from maybe like some family vacations for weddings and stuff. It was my first time, the days off were my first time visiting Philly, my first time visiting New York City. So that was really cool. And Skinner's Falls was really beautiful. So it's a big river. So yeah, and that's still like, I went back there 4 years later when my friend was at camp, and I went and hung out with him on his days off with his camp friends. And so that was really cool, kind of nostalgia thing to do.
I remember Skinner's Falls. You remember when Aaron got washed away down the river and we're all there on the rocks drinking beer? Where's Aaron? And 2 hours later he comes back covered in bushes.
I really thought he was dead.
Yeah.
I really thought he was dead. And he said he almost could have died. Like, he had a moment where he could have just been like, nope, and just given up and floated away.
Oh, no. Poor Aaron.
Not the strongest swimmer.
Sorry, Aaron. I hope you've learnt to swim since then. Or get better friends. Do you have any funny travel stories or strange travel experiences?
Yeah, so for some reason, I'm always the last person up the mountain. Whenever I go hiking with a group, it doesn't matter how big or small the group is, I am like one of the stragglers, despite my best efforts. People blame it on the fact that I'm from Florida and it's flat, and my friends in Korea used to call me Flatlander because I apparently have no lung capacity at all. So anyway, I was on a big trip. It was like a big tour group trip in Korea, and we hiked up this mountain. And not only am I just naturally slow, but I had a backpack that was way too big for all the stuff that I was bringing. Like, I had my camera equipment and different lenses and maybe even my tripod for some reason for this huge bag. So it was slowing me down. There were parts of the trip that I was completely by myself. And I get to the top of the mountain and I guilt my friend into waiting for me because she was from Colorado, like major hiker, and was like first to the top. And she wanted to go down as soon as I got up there. And I was like, no, we are taking a rest. So anyway, she waits for me. And the rest of the group goes down the mountain. Well, her and I had no sense of direction whatsoever between the two of us. So we went the completely wrong way down the mountain, like down a different way than what we came up. And we're like getting towards the bottom, and we realize that we are not anywhere. And we call the tour guide for help, and he's kind of like, you're on your own. And there's no bathroom facilities, and it's not private and hidden enough to use the bathroom on the mountain because there's just too many people coming through. So I had to pee for like hours, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And so I saw this like little place, like we were at the bottom of the mountain, and I saw this little place, and there were like big buckets of like potatoes and things that made it look like a store or like a grocery store or something. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ask if I can use the bathroom. So in my really terrible Korean, I'm like, please, bathroom, please. And I realized it is not a store, it is someone's house. And for context, it was during Chuseok, which is like Korean Thanksgiving, basically. It's one of their biggest holidays. So here I am at someone's house with my terrible Korean, like, please let me use your bathroom. And they're like peeling potatoes in preparation for their like big day, looking at me like, what the heck? So, that was fun.
Did they let you use the bathroom?
They did. They were very nice. They just were bewildered. And I guess I was lucky they were very nice because sometimes Koreans shy away from foreigners. Like, I went to visit a friend and her dad like purposely left the house so he wouldn't have to deal with us. So he eventually came back and he was very nice, but at first he was like, no. So
What's the moment you felt most alive?
I mean, when I think of like travel experiences, the one that sticks out is some friends and I like hired some motorcycles in Haiti or like right across the border in the Dominican Republic. And so I was riding on the back of a motorcycle with my friend, like along the coast. So that was really cool because I can't drive a motorcycle myself. So I was very grateful that one of them agreed to take me because there were two guys and one was like, nah, I need to feel the wind on my back. And the other one was like, I'll take you. Come on. So that was really cool. But I haven't traveled much in recent years. So the way I feel alive these days is when I act, like performing, going on stage, doing improv or dramatic plays. That's like when I feel most myself, when I'm like connecting with my fellow actors.
What's your most embarrassing moment?
Well, like quick one that I just thought of was like the first time I ever went skiing. I had like no idea what I was doing. Terrified of heights. Never been in weather that cold before. So we're on the ski lift and we get to the top, and the person I was with, who was a very experienced skier, was like, jump off. And I had that moment of hesitation. And he's like, if you don't go now, you're going to go all the way around. And it was freezing. So I made it a little late and I did the splits in my skis, and the lift dropped off right in front of the lodge. So like everyone at the lodge saw me. So that's one. And another one, I had to drive a big 12-seater van for one of my jobs, and I was scared to park it. So I was like, oh, let me go through the drive-through so I don't have to park it. There were like these red poles to block the, like where the curb hit. And I got stuck on the red pole to the point where like I couldn't move unless, or I was going to like scratch the van up worse. And so I had to go inside and ask someone help to like get me out of it. And these two guys, maybe this is a longer story than it needs to be, but these two guys were in the front and they looked real sketchy, like they were on something. And I was like, don't want to ask their help. And then I went to go in the restaurant and I was like, everyone just saw me through the window. I can't go in there. So I went back to the sketchy guys and they helped me. They directed me. So they're very helpful.
What was your most memorable vacation?
The first one that came to mind was Thailand, because it was like a vacation in the true sense of the word. Like we went for 8 days. It was over Christmas break. Saw like 4 different cities. And it was just a really great trip. It was just really nice. I had good company, stayed in some really cool places, took a cooking class. So that was great. And then when I lived in LA, we would go to Joshua Tree for weekend camping trips. And Joshua Tree is my favorite place in the world. So I feel like I have to mention that, even though it was like, it didn't feel like vacation so much as like camping, but it was a vacation. So we live in a society.